Hey guys, Doug here from the ADHD Experimental Aircraft Builder channel. That's right, I'm keeping it. It's stuck. I like it. Anyhow, so I've been working on the wiring here, and reading is fundamental. The problem with reading is you have to pay attention, number one. Number two, you have to stick with it. No, but all kidding aside, when I started wiring this thing, I read the manual from front to back to see what I've got. So the mistake I made, what is the mistakes I made? Let me see. So between you and me, I powered this thing up yesterday. Wanted to power it up before I closed it up. So I'm doing all right. Everything worked. No, of course it didn't work. But I am an expert. I know how to troubleshoot. That's what I do. So my problems will go as follows. So I temped in a battery. So my first problem was I went to turn on the master. Didn't come on. I'm like, well, pretty simple stuff, right? Of course, I looked at it and I tested it, I don't know, 4 months ago, 5 months ago. So now I'm back to it. And basically what it is you have your master, the switch is actually your neutral. Then you run your power to one of the poles. So what I did is here. So again, this is your switch right here. That's your switch power, and it's actually not power, it's actually neutral. That's what turns on and off this master relay. Then what I actually did wrong is I was putting power to this side here instead of the opposite side. This side here is the part where the coil is to turn on and off the solenoid. So that was my first mistake. I made a quick change, got the master to come on. Pretty happy. Everything was good. I'm in good shape. I tested my flap-around motor. That worked. I was really happy with that. So I got a little nutty, and before I closed this thing up, I decided, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and turn on the screen. Well, the screen comes on, and as the screen comes on, I get a failure. I get a GPS communication failure. So I'm like, well, okay, that must be because I'm not seeing the sky, because I'm stuck inside my hangar. So I'm like, no big deal. So I go through this big, long ordeal where I take the airplane, I put it up on rollers, I roll the airplane towards the door. I can't get quite close enough to the edge of the door in order to get that GPS antenna out because it gives you about a 10-foot lead. So I'm like, oh, must be that. It's got to be that. What else could it be? So I'm like, well, so I looked online for GPS antenna extensions. Can't find it. I found a couple on Amazon, but nothing local. So I'm like, well, I guess I can't do anything there. Couldn't leave the house anyways because we're in quarantine. So my next step was tech support. I'm certain I know what's wrong. I'm certain it's because I'm not seeing the sky. But what the hell, let's check. So I called GR&T, and sure enough, they're there. They do have abbreviated tech support hours, but got to talk to them. And the first thing he says is, okay, what's your fault? And I told him I had a communication fail on the GPS. He says, okay, so what serial port do you have it hooked up to? And I went, I don't know. Good question. So he says, are you out in the plane? I'm like, nope. So I go out to the plane, can't find the key to the hangar, get out there finally after a bunch of rigmarole. Get out there, I start talking to the guy, and he says, so what GPS are you using? I said, well, it's the internal GPS. He says, we don't have an internal GPS. I said, I bought an internal GPS. He says, sir, our stuff doesn't come with internal GPS. I'm like, all right, well, I said, you sent me a GPS antenna, and you sent me the GPS antenna that plugs into the, I think they call it the ARS, the AHRS. So he says, oh, you got one of them? Oh, yeah, we integrate them into those. I'm like, okay, my mistake. Anyhow, good guy, helped me through it. He says, so what serial port are you working on? I'm like, I assume that it's just the normal transmit. He says, nope, got to have its own serial port. And I'm like, oh, well, then I know what's wrong. I said, I'm assuming it's supposed to be on serial port 5. We jump through the settings on the screen. We look, and sure enough, we cannot see any communication on serial port 5. I'm like, well, that's because I didn't wire it. That would be the reason. So again, expert tech support, expert troubleshooting skills gets me to the point where I say, hey, I know what's wrong. I didn't wire it. All right. So long story short, I have now connected. I have now wired that serial port. And lo and behold, it actually worked. Powered up. So I'm still sitting in the test mode, meaning it's pretty ugly yet, right? So, but what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to start buttoning everything up and tidying cables until I test everything, because you'd hate to spend all that time tidying things up and then go, oh, well, I guess I should have made that work. So, I'm testing now. So now and here's something for all you people that have the GRT. So I've got my power distribution panel here. I'm going to flip it on and watch the screen. It will scare the hell out of you. See that? When that screen comes on, you get a huge flash of light. White light, which makes you think you blew the dang thing up. You didn't. That's just the way it works. So then even worse than that, it takes about it takes almost a full minute for it to boot up. So the first time I turned this thing on, scared the hell out of me. I got to this point, turned it off, rechecked all my wiring, had no issues, blah, 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 blah. So now we're in the power up phase right here. Now it's going to go through, it's going to check for the GPS, it's going to check for signal from the EIS, it's going to check for signal from that ARS or the AHRS. And that's the next step. Here is where the magic happens. Look at this. I got okay. Everything's good. The good news is the speeds are in knots and nautical miles, just in case everything gets funky on me. So here we go. We're going to accept. And look at that. I actually have GPS data. Look at that. Unbelievable. So, what did we learn? Reading is fundamental. So in the manual, it says external GPS. To me, this is an internal GPS system, so I just assumed that the signal actually will get transmitted across the standard serial communication that goes from the AHRS to the EFIS screen. That's not the case. There is a secondary serial connection for that. So now the good news is I'm rolling. So now I get to button this thing up. So the next video, you're going to see the instrument panel will be put inside. It'll be buttoned up. Everything will be cleaned up, and we'll power this thing up and test some strobe lights, test the flaps, test the trim tab. This is exciting. So anyhow, that's about all I have for now. Signing off. You guys have a good day.